Okay, good evening, everybody. Hopefully y'all can see me okay. I think I've got all my stuff working. Excellent. Welcome to the new season. Welcome to the Decode season presented by RTX. And I'm Patrick Michaud, and I'm going to be just a minute. I got echo back from my YouTube thing. All right. I'm going to be doing the chat clinics again this season. And we've already had one earlier in the season talking about the new advancement model. It's available on YouTube if people want to do that. Tonight's clinic is going to be mostly about introductory stuff for First Tech Challenge. So if you've been around a while, you probably know most of this, but I might have a few surprises for you. And part of the purpose of doing the chat clinic tonight and doing an introductory one is that we had the North Texas kickoff at Marcus High School this past weekend or a couple of weekends ago. And it was really well attended. We had hundreds of people there. It was very, very exciting. And the most exciting part for me was when the projector stopped working right before we were about to go live with the kickoff. And so we had to rush through a bunch of stuff and get a projector working. And that actually turned out okay, but I didn't have much time to present some of the material we would have done at the kickoff. And also, I had the pleasure of meeting many people there who came up to me who said, "We're brand new to First Tech Challenge and we don't really know what's going on." And so that told me it was time to have a seminar or workshop or something to just kind of introduce people to First Tech Challenge and what the season looks like and so forth. And so that's what I'm going to be working on today. Um, we have a number of different people that are on the call today. I'm not going to call them out. As we go through the call, if you have a question at any time, just feel free to post it in the chat. You can also unmute yourself if you have a question and just ask it voice if you prefer to do that. Just know that the meeting is being recorded and it will show up on YouTube. So anything you say or things that you do might end up being posted to YouTube. So, hide your camera and mute yourself if you don't want to have anything that you wouldn't want to have going out to YouTube go out there. And we will get started from there. Let me get my Windows set up here if I can. And I'm going to go into my presentation. I hope this works. There we go. Excellent. And I'll just put a little video down in the corner. So for those of you who are new to the chat clinics, um, uh, what we do is we often suggest, it's just a suggestion, but if you right-click your name in the participants window in Zoom, then you can add your team number and or your role, like what team are you with and are you a coach or something? And that gives us a little bit of an idea about who is attending and a better sense of who the audience is for doing the chat clinics. The purpose of the chat clinics, it's a regular meeting that we do irregularly throughout the season. It's a forum where we bring coaches, teams, volunteers together just to talk about First Tech Challenge. This used to be mostly focused towards North Texas, but we have since been invited by First in Texas to expand it to be more of Texas. And so we're now looking at it in a more Texas-wide fashion, although there will be some North Texas things that slip through, either as examples and so forth. But really, anybody from Texas or anybody in the world is welcome to join us and to learn and to chat with us about things regarding First Tech Challenge. We try to bring the latest news, updates, and information, especially for those who are new to First Tech Challenge. Many of the clinics, we will do tutorials and tips on key concepts or resources and how to get success in First Tech Challenge. This is a place where people can come and ask technical and competition questions, and we welcome that. We will, even if your question ends up being kind of long and involved, we'll set up a breakout room where we can have you go and talk with a couple of experts on whatever topic you may want to bring into the clinic. And it's a form of social networking. It's a way for us to all get together and talk about First Tech Challenge, which all of us really enjoy, which is why we're here, of course. So that's what the purposes are. Today's topic is just going to be a welcome to First Tech Challenge for people who are somewhat new to the competition. So it's information, especially for new coaches and teams. We'll cover the season calendar and what that looks like. We'll look at event competition and format. We'll do a little bit about resources. And if time permits, We'll do questions regarding the game rules for this year's game and can look at some of the game details. But I'll just say in advance, we're already planning a much more detailed game rules review clinic sometime in the next couple of weeks, similar to what we've done in previous seasons, where we go through all of the different rule reviews and what the rules are, and talk about the very specific details. There are some interesting new rules this year, and I'm learning more of them as we go. Seems like every other day I'm finding out something new in the manual I hadn't noticed before, which is always fun for me to experience. I'm going to do as I do for all of the chat clinics. This is there's a disclaimer. Many of you will know that I am the co-partner or co-leader for First Tech Challenge in Texas, along with Emily DeMille. And so I do have some official capacity to speak about First Tech Challenge within Texas, but for the purposes of the chat clinics, I tend to say, don't hold me to anything that gets said here. Don't hold anything that gets said in the clinics as being official things, because sometimes we're reacting to new information and so forth. So whatever you hear here in these forums are technically unofficial and just reflect our best knowledge or opinions. For the authoritative answers, always go to the official sources, such as the competition manual, the team updates, official communications that come by email and other places, and so forth. So just be aware of that. Before I already did that part. All right. So to give a sense of what we're talking about for Texas First Tech Challenge, I just wanted to go ahead and cover the Texas FTC region map. And so this is the map that is available on our brand new website that just got launched a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't had a chance to go visit, then go visit it. It's still a work in progress. There's still a lot to be added. But Texas has 5 regions, FTC regions, within the geographic borders of Texas. And they are given here, and they're just known as Central, East, North, South, and Western Panhandle. And so you can see the geographic spread of each of the different regions that exist. And each of those regions this year competes as if it is a separate First Tech Challenge region, for purposes of advancing to the first championship or world championship. So there is this Texas State Championship. We can talk about that here in a little bit, but each of these regions runs somewhat independently of the others in terms of competition that takes place. One of the things that is very confusing for people, even people who may have been in the First Tech Challenge in Texas program in Texas for a while, is the distinction between First and First in Texas. These are actually 2 separate nonprofit organizations that work very closely together. But some things you are interacting with First, or sometimes as we call it, First Headquarters, and other times you are interacting with First in Texas, which is the Texas delivery organization for delivering the programs. And so one of the things, especially if you're communicating with us at First in Texas, or if you're communicating with folks at First Headquarters, is to make sure or try to understand the distinction. Are you talking with the right group? Are you communicating with the right group for whatever program or whatever question you may have? In order to do things. So First is the global nonprofit, and they design the games, the rules, and the competition format that everybody around the world follows. First in Texas is the organization that handles the delivery of the First program for Texas. Now for FTC, which is what we're talking about, First in Texas does all of FTC except for the East region or the Houston region. That is considered a separate delivery organization at First Headquarters. And so if you are in the East region, we very much welcome you to contact us for things if you need help and so on. Just know that most of your competition questions, your event questions, your registration questions really go to the folks at San Jacinto College, who manages the Houston region for different things that are doing. Each of these 2 organizations have their own registration fee. When you pay First Headquarters, you're paying to get the team number, and you're paying to support the development of the game and the game materials and the larger competition structure. When you register at First in Texas and pay the First in Texas fees, you are paying for the delivery of the events that we have taking place in Texas. And let me go to my next slide. Yeah, so within First Tech Challenge, some of the key program delivery partners at First in Texas are given on this slide. So even though Emily and I are the co-leaders, these are the people that you will tend to be communicating with and interacting with mostly during the season. They are your local or regional delivery partners. So we have Lon Cherryholmes, who handles the North region, Sammy Rivera, which handles the South region, Matt James handles our Central region, and Garrett Smith handles the Western Panhandle region. And so for most of your interactions, most of the announcements that you will get regarding when competitions are taking place or how to sign up for events or advancements, things like that, will go to your regional program delivery partners. And then just to fill it out, the program leaders are myself and Emily, just so you can see whatever photos we have here. And we are the program leaders for First in Texas statewide, and we kind of oversee all of the different programs. And I hear somebody unmuting. Do you have a question? Nope. Okay. I have some public service announcements before we get into some of the big details. So the biggest one is the grants portal is open again. So if you are interested in getting grants to support your teams in the competition season, then go to this address, https firstintexas.org/team-grants. That address is different from previous years. Just note that it has the team hyphen on part. And the first round opened on Monday, and it will close on October 16th. What First in Texas does, one of our big things, is that we go out and solicit organizations, companies, nonprofits, lots of people who may have funding that they want to give to support STEM education in Texas. And they will give us money, and they'll designate that a certain amount of it should go directly to teams. And we help match teams to the granting agencies and to get as many teams some support funding as we can. And different grants will come with different strings attached, like it needs to be only in certain geographic regions, or we're only looking for high schoolers, or we're only looking for middle schoolers. And so we collect information about all of the different teams in Texas and then work to spread that information around. But you can only get the grants if you apply. So please go there. There's a form that you can fill out. It's a little bit lengthy, but it doesn't require you to write essays. It doesn't require you to justify why you are better than anybody else or more deserving than anybody else. You just give us the information about your team demographics, what school district are you in, what county are you in, and so forth, and you're automatically entered in the pool to be considered for other grants. Whatever grants that we have. On that page, there's also a link to First Headquarters. First Headquarters provides some grants as well. And so you can follow that link to see what First Headquarters has. The number and types of grants that are there now seem to be not as numerous as previous years. It's just part of the times, I think. But sometimes it's worth going there and looking anyway. If you have already registered a team for First Tech Challenge, you've probably gotten an invitation into the new First in Texas Coach Portal, which we're really excited about. The Coach Portal is like the First Headquarters dashboard, but just for First in Texas. And so it has where you can pay for your season fee for Texas events, where you can pay for individual Texas events if you advance to them or if you need to get there. But one of the things to note is that in the team dashboard, when you log into that coach portal, there is a link that says additional resources, and that will take you directly to whatever your regional program delivery partner has specified as being information for all teams within the region. And so I just showed here, I grabbed a team from Central Texas, and if you go into their dashboard, you can see there's a link there that takes you to the Central Padlet. And the Central region is using Padlet again this year in order to distribute information about the Central Texas events, how the leagues are being organized, and so on. So if you ever need a quick link into the regional information, it's available there through the team dashboard. And as always, we're always looking for volunteers for our events. You can go to firstinspires.org. You can go into the dashboard. If you haven't been to the dashboard since yesterday, when you try to log into the dashboard at First Headquarters, it's going to ask you to reestablish your account. they switched to a new login provider system. And so everybody is having to reset your password. So just be aware of that. That's true for volunteers as well. But you can go to the dashboard. You can see what events are coming up in your area and be able to volunteer for some of those events if you wish. Finally, if you're in North Texas, we have a First Tech Challenge Google group, but I know a lot of people sign up for this Google group even if they're not in North Texas because a lot of information gets shared there. So you can sign up at this address, https://tiny.cc/ntxftc-group. It's open to coaches, mentors, team members, volunteers. It is not officially run or managed in any way by First in Texas. It is just a community supported group where people can come together and share information about the season or ask questions about the season and so forth. Again, it does have a North Texas focus, but there's a lot of times when others are very interested to know what the North Texas folks are talking about and share that within their own regions. And with that, I'm going to take a quick break from my presentation and just see if anybody has any burning questions that they want to ask before I get into talking about how the season works and how First Team Texas works as well. And again, you can either put them in the chat or you can just unmute and ask by unmuting. I'm just really curious to see if anybody has a question. Oh, I see one, possibly.
So I looked at my dashboard as you were showing it, and
Yes.
the additional resources is not showing up on my page anywhere.
Are you in North?
Yes.
That page hasn't been established yet.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
That's wise. I should have said that, right? That one or two of the regions don't have their pages up yet. So, but as soon as they're there, as soon as they're ready, we will put that link there. So I should have definitely mentioned that. So thanks for pointing that out. That's a really good point. Any other questions? Oh, I see it there in the chat as well. Cool. All right. Let me go ahead and go back to the presentation then, and let's go ahead and look at how First Tech Challenge kind of works in Texas. And I'm going to go at a medium speed here because again, we have a lot of people, or I think we have a lot of people who are relatively new to First Tech Challenge in Texas, and so I want to kind of give a really good overview of how things work. So first of all, I think it's just worth saying, what does the season look like? And First Tech Challenge is a long season, especially if you make it out of the regular season and into the postseason. So I've kind of described the First Tech Challenge season as looking something like this. We have the preseason, which is what we're in now. That just typically lasts for September and October. And in the preseason is when we're all setting up for the competition or the regular season that starts in November. So in the preseason, we've already had the kickoff. The game details have been released so that teams can get started working on their robots. During September and October, lots of teams and organizations are holding workshops, or we're holding this clinic. There will sometimes be scrimmages in different regions. There is team registration taking place. Teams are working on their robot design and build activities. That's what happens in September and October every year. And then as we get into November, we get into what I call the regular season. And this is when teams are competing in their tournaments. They can be competing in league meets and league tournaments. Some of our regions also have qualifiers, so some teams will choose to participate in qualifier tournaments as well. And that takes us from November through the early part of February as teams are competing in their league meets, tournaments, and qualifier tournaments. And then once we get to about the middle of February, we're in what I call the postseason. And that is we're out of the regular season, and those teams that have done well in the regular season and have advanced out of their regular season events will then enter the postseason. And in Texas, we have events called semi-qualifiers or super qualifiers, I guess. Regional championships will take place. In March, we'll have a statewide event called the Texas State Cup. In March, we'll also have the UIL Championship for those teams that are associated with UIL schools to compete for the UIL Championship. And then in April and the very beginning of May is the first championship as well. Um, the Then the season generally ends at the end of April. That's the end of the postseason. And then in May through July of each year, there are other events such as premier events, off-season events, and so on that uh, that we can do. So that's what a typical season looks like. I see the questions in the chat, and I will add those here in a second. I will get to those, but I just wanted to give the high-level overview. Let's look at the more detailed overview. And so this is the North Texas season calendar as it is currently drafted at the moment. And you can kind of see where all of the different things are. I'll go through some of these in a little bit of detail. If you are coming from a region other than North Texas, then of course these events, the individual events would look different, but this kind of gives an idea of how a season might be structured depending on how you are. And each of the other regions in Texas have their own version of the season calendar that is available. So right now we are in the preseason, and we just had the kickoff on September 6th, and we are now on September 16th. And you can see there that in North Texas, we have a couple of events that are known as the Volunteer Academies. And the Volunteer Academies, I'm not sure that these are the right dates. They may or may not be. It's just wherever I pulled them from. But the Volunteer Academies are specialized training days that we have for people who want to volunteer at events to come and be trained and learn about the new season, about the rules and so on. They're typically half-day events. We do them in the morning, so you're not eating up an entire Saturday. And more details about where to sign up for the Volunteer Academy will be coming from your regional program delivery partner for whatever training events or things that they have taking place. Many of the regions have scrimmages, so on the other weekends here, you would often see scrimmages. You'll see on October 18th, there's that bright green column that's called the preview event. That is a special event that is being done this year. In previous years, the Marcus High School and the Marcus Robotics Institute would offer a scrimmage around the end of October for teams to participate. The preview event is a scrimmage, but it is going to have a large number of specialists from First Headquarters and from around the world coming and attending the event. And this is where we plan to try and shake down a lot of the technical systems that are coming out and have some matches that are played as as if it was an official tournament to make sure that all of the tournament pieces together and so on. So the event, the October event, there's a question in the chat about will we be doing judging? Yes, we will do full judging. We will have awards. We will give out trophies. It is being designed to play as if it was a complete full day tournament. So if you are interested, we still have a few spots left, perhaps, for teams to join. Unfortunately, I don't have a link to the sign up form or anything like that, but feel free to contact me offline if you're interested, and we will get the link to you about how you can sign up to be the preview event. We are, for this one, we're looking that, it is being run as if it is a more competition event. And so while you don't have to compete in judging or do those things, we are expecting most of the robots to actually be pretty well configured. So if anybody else in North Texas wants to run a scrimmage in October, we would love to see that for those teams that may not be as far along or may not feel that they want to compete at something like the preview event. So we're very much asking teams and other groups to consider hosting scrimmages this year and making those available to teams, because the Marcus Robotics Institute scrimmage this year has been turned into the preview event that's here, which will be really special. Even if your team doesn't want to compete at the preview event, I would encourage you to attend. My rookie season in First Tech Challenge, I went to a local scrimmage, just myself as a coach, even though my team was nowhere near ready and they couldn't make it because it was held at a time that conflicted with the school activity. But I went to a regional scrimmage that was being held, and you just learned so much by seeing what other teams are doing, by being able to talk to other teams. You can take videos and see what's happening and get a lot of ideas for your own team. And so, even if you're not planning to compete at the preview event, I would encourage people to come and attend and meet some of the teams that will be there, and see how an event works and so forth, and not necessarily have to wait for your first event whenever it occurs in November. So hopefully that answers the question about judging at the preview event at Roboplex next month. And I also talked about the volunteer clinics. So I think I got caught up on the chat. November, December, January are the regular season, and the highlights there are the orange boxes surrounded in black. Those are the tournaments that take place, and you'll see in the next set of slides that tournaments are really the structure of the competition for most of our teams. It all centers around those tournaments. We have 3 qualifier tournaments in North Texas that are taking place in November and December, and then we have quite a few league tournaments taking place in January and February, and I'm going to talk about what those are. You can see here, just by looking at this, each column is basically a Saturday, a weekend. And you can see that in North Texas, we're pretty full. Every weekend, there's 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 events. On January 10th, we have 5 events all taking place on January 10th in the North Texas area. And so that's where we need volunteers. And that's why we're always asking about volunteers to help us cover these events and help make them all come across okay. So that's the regular season. The postseason are our super qualifiers, the UIL and state championships, and the first championship in February, March, and April. You can kind of see the dates there. Those are for teams that advance out of the regular season into the postseason. And then May, June, and July are off-season and premier events. So you can kind of see that. Now, this calendar has been organized by North Texas leagues. So across the left, you'll see that our leagues are all named with a letter. So there's the E League and the I League and the S League. And so teams that are in, just as an example, the S League, they can follow their column across and they can see that their first league meet would be on November 8th. Their second league meet would be on December 6th. Their third league meet would be on January 12th, and then their league tournament would be combined with the I League on January 31st. So that's the way that gets read if you're in North Texas. Okay, there's a question in the chat. For the preview event, how is portfolio judging handled? The same way it would be at any other tournament. You'll turn in your portfolio when you meet with the judges. They will review it. It's just if you've been to a tournament before, it's basically the same as has been done before. There's nothing special there. So you'll be asked to come to the event, bring your portfolio with you to the judging session, and then the judges will take it from there. All right. So for those who are new to First Tech Challenge, I mean, I just talked about the importance of tournaments. So what is a tournament? Tournaments are the main events of our season competition structure. They're the key things that we look at. So in a tournament, teams will do most or all of the things that I have listed here. So you have your robot inspected for compliant with the robot construction rules. In the competition manual, there's a set of rules about what you are and are not allowed to do in building your robot, what the rules of the construction are and performance and so forth. And so there's an inspection period, and every team that wants to play in matches goes through the robot inspection. In a tournament, the teams will engage in structured and pit interviews to compete for judged awards. So if you are competing for any of the judged awards, then you would participate in those interviews. All the teams that get through inspection, they play in 5 or 6 what are called qualification matches to determine qualification rankings. Depending on how they do in the qualification matches, they may become part of a playoff alliance to participate in the playoffs at the event. And then depending on how they do in the judged awards and in the playoffs, some teams will receive awards and recognitions for their achievements. And depending on all of that above, they may earn advancement to other events in the postseason or off-season based on their performance at those events. Let's see. There's a great question in the chat about judging. Can a team get judged for a category where portfolios are not needed? I'll cover that in the judging session, but the short answer is yes, you can. You do not have to compete for all the awards, and it's totally fine to compete for awards where they say a portfolio is not required. You are not required to have one in order to win that award. All right, so that's a tournament, and I'm going to talk through tournaments in a bit more detail here in a little bit, but I want to contrast tournament with, in Texas, almost all of our teams, I would say 95% of the teams that we have in Texas participate in leagues, and leagues are special. They have a special structure. So I want to contrast tournament with a league meet. So the way that leagues work is, well, let's just go back to tournament, right? So if you're in a tournament and you attend a tournament, you play 5 or 6 qualification matches. So you get to play 5 or 6 matches with your robot. And if there are a lot of teams at the tournament, 5 or 6 matches is not really always enough to be able to get a good ranking of the teams that are at that event. In other words, you can have teams, it's just not a lot of matches to be playing in order to determine the rankings. And we can't add more matches for 2 reasons. Number one, we can't add more matches to the event day because it makes the event day really long if you have more than 5 or 6 matches for every team to play. But secondly, First Headquarters won't let us. So because of that limited bit, leagues have been created. And what leagues do is they provide additional opportunities for teams to compete in robot matches. And so those are organized into what are called league meets. So leagues are a way for a team to participate in more robot matches than you would get if you just went to a tournament. If you sign up for a league, and again, 95% of the teams in Texas fall into this category, then what happens is you participate. Your season, your regular season, has 3 league meets and a league tournament. And if I go back to the calendar, you'll see here that for all of these different leagues that are here, such as the E-League, the I-League, and so on, each one of those leagues has 3 league meets and then a tournament of some sort. Now, some of the leagues combine for their tournament to make the tournament larger. Some of them do not. Some of them are standalone. But this is the way the season gets structured. And so depending on which league you sign up for, that's going to determine your league meet dates and your league tournament dates that you will be competing in. Some teams choose to select leagues based on geography. They want to have a league that meets near geographically close to where they are so they don't have to do long travel. Some teams are more interested in the dates that are involved. Some teams would like to join into leagues that are more or less competitive based on history or based on the teams that they expect to be there. So there's a variety of different ways in which teams will decide which leagues they are in. In most of the regions, such as Central, West, and South, your league is pretty much chosen for you just based on geography and other considerations that they have. In North, because the North events are currently more compacted into a tighter geographic area, there's a little bit more room for teams to select different options. All right, so at a league meet, what will happen is you do have inspection, just like at a tournament, and you play in 5 or 6 qualification matches, just like a tournament. But the league meets do not have any judging interviews. There's no alliance selection. There's no playoffs. There's no awards. There's no advancements. It's just a shorter day in which you go, you bring your robots, you do inspection, you play 5 or 6 matches, and then you're done for the day. And those matches that you play can apply towards your standings at the league tournament. So every team that is in a league automatically gets to participate in that league's tournament. And that's a really key thing, because a lot of people will say, do we have to advance to the tournament? No, by virtue of being in a league, you are automatically in the league tournament. And some of your matches from that tournament, from your league meets that you played prior to the tournament, count towards your standings at the tournament in terms of the competition matches that take place. All right, so this is just a summary of what I just described. So for leagues, which are here on the left, we have meets and tournaments. A league meet is a short day event. You'll play 3 of them. So you'll have 3 short day events of some sort. And in those, you do a robot inspection and 5 or 6 qualification matches, and that's it for the day. When you get to the league tournament, it is a full day event. And so it's a longer event because you have a lot more going on. You still have a robot inspection. You still have 5 or 6 qualification matches. Plus, you carry forward the best 10 matches from whatever league meets you attended, get carried forward into your tournament standings for that day. And then at the conclusion of qualification matches, which we'll talk about in a second, we go through alliance selection, playoff matches, and so forth for the robot game. At a tournament, we also do judging. So in the morning, there are structured interviews. During the afternoon, while the matches are taking place, there may be pit interviews. And so that's how the judges determine which teams to get awards. And at the conclusion of the day, we have awards and we have advancements. And I got a note, my camera is blocking a few cells. So just so you can see, oops, wrong button. Just so everybody can see what is there. It's just a bunch of Ys. So thanks for pointing that out to me. So that's a league meet and a tournament. Qualifiers are the same as a league tournament, just you don't carry forward any matches from any previous events. It's just a standalone event. Regional championships, oops, I didn't mean to hit that. Regional championships are the same thing. You go through the same things, but because of the size of a regional championship and the intensity of the competition, it is usually a very full day. We have it can easily be 11 or 12 hours long, depending on the event that you're at, how competitive things are, and so forth. So just know that if you make it to a regional championship, you may be looking at a very long day. Okay, I have here, this is a typical tournament day, just for one of the league tournaments. I just grabbed this from the league tournament from last year in North Texas. It just gives you a sense of what a day looks like in terms of the timing of things. So judging and inspection takes place in the morning. There's a meeting with the head referee and an opening ceremony. We then start qualification matches. That goes through the middle of the afternoon. Then there's alliance selection. I'll talk more about how that works in a bit. Playoffs, there's the awards happens, and then the event typically ends about 6 or 6:30 for a tournament. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'll open it up for questions real quick. My next step is going to be to talk more about what happens in a robot game, because that's the other piece that we need here. But in terms of just the overall competition season, does anybody have any questions or comments that you would like to add?
Hey, Patrick, this is Sparks. I just had a quick clarification question with league play versus qualifiers and stuff. If you're participating in a league, does that exclude you from participating in a qualifier, or are you still able to do that? And then what if you do a qualifier during the season and you're doing both, like league and qualifier, but you get qualified to advance while you're still doing the leagues? So how does that all work?
So it depends on the region. Now, the only region that has qualifiers in the fall right now is North. So it doesn't apply if you're in Central or South or East or West and Panhandle, right? So that is a North thing. And it is because we have some teams North, a sizable population of teams that cannot do leagues for one reason or another. They cannot make the schedule work, and we want those teams to continue to be able to participate, which is why qualifiers are offered in North. I don't make the official decisions about how that happens in North, but I can tell you what the general guidelines are. So we expect most teams to be in leagues. And that is the primary mechanism. When you sign up, if you are a team that cannot do league play for one reason or another, and you would talk to Lon Cherry Holmes about what those reasons are and so forth, then your season instead can be 2 qualifiers. So 2 qualifiers and no league. And that would be your season. So it has to be 2 fall qualifiers, I believe, as well. So you would get 2 qualifier events in the fall, and that would be your regular season participation. But we don't have enough teams to fill those qualifiers up just with teams that want to do only 2 qualifiers. So the way it happened last year and the way I expect it to be for this year is that you can also say, I would like to be considered for these qualifier events, and you may get invited to a qualifier event. If you choose a qualifier event, It needs to be a date that does not conflict with a league event that you have on that, or you need to make special arrangements with Lawn Cherry Homes. If we go back to the calendar, see if I can get to the calendar here. We go. There we go. Right. So the qualifier event that's taking place on December 13th would not be a good choice for teams that are in the E League, the U League, the A League, or the T League, because they have a league meet that same day. So if there's a conflict, that has to be managed somehow, and the best way to manage it is just, don't select that one as being one of your preferences or put it as your last preference. So it is possible for teams that are in leagues to attend a qualifier event. It's by application and invitation. Lon is the program delivery partner for North, has criteria he uses to decide which teams get into the qualifiers and which ones don't. You're not guaranteed to be able to get one just because we don't have enough events for that. And so it works out from there. Last year we had only one qualifying tournament, and this year we have 3 that are in the fall. So there's a lot more spots opening up to be able to accommodate demand. So I think that answers the question. I hope it does.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And more details will be coming out with from Lawn Cherry Homes for how that happens here in a bit. Any other questions? Okay, let's talk about a match. So we have one more slide and then we're going to get to see a video. All right. So the center of the competition, what we do all throughout the season, what our teams really focus on is building a robot to play that year's robot game. And so I just wanted to cover what a match looks like, because I had a lot of questions at the kickoff from, again, new people who were like, okay, this is a field, but I have no idea what we're supposed to build or how it's supposed to work or anything like that. So I wanted to cover the mechanics of how matches work and so on. So in a match, you have 2 alliances of 2 teams each. And they each play in a 2-minute and 30-second long competition called a match. And their goal is to score points and to earn other achievements in that match. And at the end of the 2 minutes and 30 seconds, whichever alliance has earned the most points is declared the winner of that particular match. And so a competition day has a large number of matches that are being played with 4 robots on the field at the same time. 2 of the robots will be on one alliance, and that's called the Red Alliance. 2 other robots will be on the opposite alliance, and that's called the Blue Alliance. And those pairs of teams play against each other to try and score more points in their alliance than the opposing alliance gets. Every season, the game changes. So every season, there's a new game created with new challenges for how you earn the points in that season's game. That's what was revealed at the kickoff on September 6th, was the details about this year's game. I'm not going to play the video, the release video, because people can go and see that and so on, but we can talk about some of the aspects of the game a little bit later. Matches consist of 3 periods. So the first 30 seconds of a match is called the autonomous period, or the auto period. And during this period of time, the robots are performing completely on their own without any driver input. The driver hits play when the match starts, and then it's hands off the controls and let the robot do its thing for the next 30 seconds. When that period ends, there's a short break where the drivers are allowed to pick up their controllers that they can use to control the robots. And the next 2 minutes is a teleop period, stands for teleoperated period. And that's the period of time where the drivers are playing the game, but they have control of their robot while they're doing that through whatever they programmed into the controllers. And then there's also a period at the last 20 seconds of the match where special purpose tasks can take place for that particular game. And again, it changes every year, but there are some tasks that you're only allowed to do during the last 20 seconds. So let's see an example match. There aren't any matches yet from this year's game, except for the people who are crazy and built their robots in 3 or 4 days. So I wanted to go and show a match from a previous season instead. So let me see if I can get this to share properly. All right, let's do a share, and it's this one. And I'm going to share sound and optimize for video sharing. I hope the sound comes through. We'll see how it works. Sometimes this doesn't work out very well for me. All right, are you all able to see my video? It's not playing yet, but are you able to see the video?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. This is from 2 years ago. This is from the center stage season. And I chose this season because it has some characteristics and some aspects that are more in line with what this year's game will have than the most recent season had. And I'm going to say up front, for those of you who are new, you are looking at the finals match of the regional championship in North Texas. So the teams that you are seeing here, this is at the culmination of their season, the end of the North Texas season, and they are very, very good. You will not encounter this in your early season matches. You're seeing like some of the best ones, but it also shows a lot of the things that can happen in a match. So I'm going to start at the first of all, let's just look at the field. You can see the field is a 12-foot by 12-foot square. It is organized on the right-hand side are the drivers and the players. That is called the Red Alliance. The two robots that are over in white on the right-hand side of the screen, those are the Red Alliance robots. They are playing against the two robots on the left-hand side of the field that are called the Blue Alliance. And you can see that there are boxes where that determines where the Red Alliance players and the Blue Alliance players start. And at this point, they are setting up the field. The first part of what is happening, and I'm just going to mute this out here real quick, is that this is where the teams are getting their robots loaded on the field. In every season, there's a requirement about where your robot can go and where it would be. And you'll see there in the middle of the field, there is an official, that's the FTA, and the FTA is checking with each of the alliances to make sure that they are ready. So here he's asking the Red Alliance, are you ready to go? They say yes. Blue Alliance, are you ready to go? They say yes. And now he asks for what is called randomization. So randomization is something that happens at the beginning of before a match starts, where the scoring system selects something to change on the field from when it was set up. So when the FTA asked each of the alliances, are you ready? That's also a cue that they can no longer touch their robots or controllers until the match starts. Because this randomization is going to take place, and the robots will then have to react to the change that happened as a result of randomization. So in this particular case, the randomization was to choose between left, center, and right. And because left was randomly chosen, all of the team markers on the field are being moved to their left position. And that has implications for how scoring is to take place in the autonomous section of this match. In this year's game, the randomization is determining the motif or the pattern for scoring the balls on the ramps. All right, but here we are. So randomization has taken place. They turn it over to the head referee. And there's going to be a skip here where I cut a long part because the head referee was announcing some things. And the head referee, actually, I'm going to turn on the volume for this part. The head referee is going to announce 3, 2, 1, go. And when they announce go,
all right, we're underway in the finals.
Actually, I don't want to talk over the announcers yet. You can see the team members pressed play to start their robots, and now they are not touching the controls, and the robots are doing things on their own. They are scoring. In this game, the goal was to take these little hexagonal prisms or pieces and to score them on those backboards that you see there. They had to drop them on so that they would remain there. And again, this is all happening autonomously. And so here we are at the end of the autonomous period. I'm going to pause this real quick. And the teams get points for having put some of these elements in specific places on the field. They get points for having put some elements onto the backdrops. They get points for being parked in these blue and red zones at the end of the autonomous period, right? And so the autonomous period has taken place. You can see the Red Alliance has scored a few more points than the Blue Alliance by this point. And now we continue on with the rest of the match. So I'm going to start the video back up again. And as this starts, the main activity that is happening is that robots are going over to a station in the corner of the field. They are grabbing game elements and they're returning them to their scoring positions where they are attempting to score them on those backdrops. And so there's just a lot of robot moving back and forth as teams are trying to pick up the game elements and to be able to score them in different ways. You can see that this game's field it had some obstacles in the middle. So you had to work around these things that were in the middle of the field in order to get from place to place. The teams are scoring slowly because you get bonus points if you are able to create certain patterns on the backboards that you see there as you are going through and moving them from place to place. Again, these are, this is the finals. These are, four of the best teams in the region going at it here. And so you can see that they're scoring very, very fast. They're working around each other. They're trying to do a variety of things that will take place. One thing to note is we're watching all of the different pieces take place here. You'll really see it here in the next few seconds. Is that robots can and do run into each other. So here we go, bang, right in the middle of the field. That's considered normal play. You cannot ram into other people's robots to try to destroy or damage them in any way. But robots running into each other, pushing each other, that is all considered normal gameplay in First Tech Challenge. It can't be too aggressive or aggressive in ways that the referees deem as being more damaging or more intentionally damaging than anything else. But you can see that the robot contact does. I'm going to back up here because I also want to talk about the ending of the match. So I mentioned earlier that during the end of the match, there are certain tasks that can only be done at the end. And so you'll see here the little white robot in the middle of the field by itself is going to, I think, attempt to deliver a paper airplane. Oh, not yet. But there you can see one robot tried to do a paper airplane, another one got a paper airplane over the field. In this year's game, the goal was to get your paper airplane as close over the wall, but as close to the wall as you possibly could. And another task you could do at the end of the match would be to try and have your robots pull themselves up on a bar so that they are off the ground. So that's what a match looks like. 2.5 minutes of what can be very intense fun. Trying to score elements in different ways, having to navigate around your partners and your opponents. And what you want to see is you want to have that your alliance has more points at the end of the match than your opponent alliance has. So Erica says this was a fun match to referee. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Erica. It was fun for me to watch as well. So Erica's having flashbacks to when it was there, and legitimately fun. So I'm gonna pause there and open it up for questions about this match. Anything that you saw or have a question about as far as how the robot game kind of worked in this season. But it gives you a sense of what it looks like, I think, and that I think is always a good starting point. One thing I did want to note about this match, because I think it's really useful for teams to be aware of, is it's important to remember that when you are playing in a match, you are playing as an alliance. You're playing with a partner. And your goal is not for your robot to score the most. The goal is for your partnership to score the most. And so you really do want to have ways to be able to work together. And so I'm going to go back towards the beginning because when I saw that in this match, and full disclosure, yes, the team in the upper right-hand corner in this image is my team. I have a First Tech Challenge team, and that is my team that is competing at this point. But when we start the match here, let me get to where the match starts. One thing to notice is that the two teams on the Red Alliance have worked some things out together. So one of the things that they've worked out is to make sure that they don't run into each other. You could see there, they've identified where paths they're going to do, because this is totally autonomous, in order to be able to not run into each other during this first part of the match. And then the other thing that people who are watching, so the robot that's at the front of the field, you'll see it went and it picked up a couple of those white things, but now it's just sitting there when it could be rushing back to the other side of the field to score them. And the two teams had worked out and figured out that if it did that, the two robots would run into each other. So the robot that's now currently in the front of the field, the closest to us, is waiting to give the other robot time to get out of the way before it moves. And you can see it gets there just in time so that the other robot has time to move out of the way and not interfere with the scoring that's taking place. So at the higher levels of competition, you're going to see robots and teams that have planned ahead and come up with ways for them to be able to work with their partners to get even higher scores than what they could do individually. And that to me is an important aspect, a really fun aspect of First Tech Challenge that I always like to see. Okay, any other questions or anything? Just put in the chat, am I going too fast, too slow? How to just right? If anybody thinks I'm going too fast, let me know. If not, then I'll speed up just a little bit to go through some of the rest of it. And let me switch back out of that. So let me stop sharing and go back to my presentation. All right, so we've seen a match. Okay, good, I got it just right. That's good. All right, so I've seen I've shown an example match. So let's look at what happens after a match. So when you go to an event, a tournament or league meet, but mainly I'm going to talk mainly about tournaments. The teams all check in, and the scoring system then generates a schedule of qualification matches. And in the qualification matches, your partner team is randomly chosen for you. And so you will go through and play 5 or 6 matches where your partner and your opponents have just been chosen at random. The system doesn't look at how strong you've been in the past. It doesn't look at, your team number. It doesn't look at any of those sorts of things. It just randomly pairs the teams. It does look at things like making sure that you aren't always paired with the same team throughout the day, or that you don't end up with matches that are immediately back to back. It does that to the best of its ability. It tries to spread things around. It also makes sure that you're not always on the red alliance. It does make sure you're sometimes on the blue alliance. So that happens, and the teams play in all of the qualification matches according to the schedule. And as you play the matches, you earn what are called ranking points. And there are different ways to earn ranking points. So one of the ways is that you can win the match. If you win the match, a qualification match, you get 3 ranking points. If you just a minute, I got something going on. If you in this year's game, first time ever in First Tech Challenge, there are other things you can do in a match to earn even more ranking points. And you get those ranking points even if you lose the match. For example, at the qualifier level, at the regular season level, if your alliance puts at least 36 balls into the goal over the course of a match, you get an additional ranking point for that achievement. If you are able to get enough of the balls to match the pattern that was determined by the obelisk at the beginning of the match, and you're able to score enough of those pattern points in the match, you get an additional ranking point. So every match you can get ranking points. You get ranking points for winning the match. You get a ranking point if you tie. You can get ranking points for other things. And all of these accumulate towards your ranking score, which is just the average number of ranking points you got per match. And that ranking score is then what determines your overall rank at the tournament in the qualification portion. Oops. It's the average number of, where's my slide? Where's my slide? Oh, one of my slides is missing. Oh no, wait. Okay, I had another slide in here that apparently disappeared. But at the end of the qualification matches, we then enter into what's called the playoffs. And in the playoffs, what happens is the teams, I don't think this is gonna fix it, but just in case it does. Let's see. Nope, okay. At the end of the at the end of the qualification matches, the top teams in terms of their ranking score become what are called alliance captains. And they go through a process where they get to pick who they want out of the other teams at the event to be their alliance partners for the playoffs. Now, the number of teams that get to do this depends upon the size of the event. Typically, it's 6 captains, and those 6 captains get to pick 6 partners. There are rules about what can happen for a captain picking another captain, or what happens if you say, I don't want to join that particular alliance, and so forth. But at the end, you end up with 6 playoff alliances, or however many are at the event, and those alliances play in a double elimination bracket in order to determine which teams are the winners of the robot game portion of the event. So this is the 6 alliance playoff bracket, and you can see that we have Alliance 3 playing Alliance 6 and Alliance 4 playing Alliance 5 here at the beginning, and you go through all of these wins and losses. Whenever a team loses, it drops into the lower bracket somewhere. If it loses one match, once it loses its second match, it's knocked out of the playoff tournament, and the winner is the team that ends up with 1 match or less by the end of the tournament. So whichever one didn't get to 2 losses is the winner of the tournament. So that is the way playoffs work. Casey asks average number of ranking points or total ranking points. It is the average number of ranking points. You can think of it as being total ranking points also because everybody plays the same number of matches. It's really either way it works out. We call it the average now because previously they used to use total ranking points and it caused all sorts of problems with the rankings display and people getting confused by it. So nowadays we think of ranking score as being the average number of ranking points, which is your total number of ranking points divided by the number of official matches that you've played at that event, or for that event, I should say. Okay, so that is the robot game. I'm going to stop there and let anybody who has questions about the robot game, please come forth and ask them, either in the chat or in the thing. There was an earlier question about how long this session will run. I'm targeting to be done by 8:30. I think I'm going to make that target, so maybe even a little sooner. But I did schedule it to be approximately an hour and a half tonight. Okay. Yes. Yes.
I saw in the other video that there's 3 teams per alliance. Is there 3 or 2 teams?
So a couple of seasons ago, it was 3 teams per alliance in the playoffs. And then what I was showing is a playoff match. But now it is 2 teams per alliance in the playoffs.
Okay, so there would be a total of 12 teams in the playoffs.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. If you're in an event that has a 6 alliance playoff bracket, there would be 12 teams in the playoffs. Smaller events, that is events that have fewer than 21 teams or 20 teams. 20 teams or fewer, I think, is the criteria. It's in the manual. They would only have 4 alliances or 8 teams. And if you go to an event where there are more than 40 teams in a division, then that becomes an 8 alliance playoff bracket. The more than 40 teams in a division is pretty rare. Certainly we don't have any that I'm aware of at First in Texas that do that. So 6 alliance is pretty common, and that's the big one. All right, questions. So these are game related questions. I'll go ahead and answer them quickly, but we will have a much longer session on the rules, possibly after judging, and in another section as well. Feel free to ask more questions or to unmute if you have questions. So one question is, how many artifacts can a human player hold at once? And is the human player allowed to grab artifacts out of the secret tunnel? So we haven't talked much about this year's game yet, but I can probably pull it up here real quick. Let's see if I can find my window that has it. Game manual. Okay. And let me just share that screen real quick. It'll be easier. Let's make the print bigger so people have a chance of actually being able to read it. And let's try share screen. It'll come out a little bit nicer if I do it this way. Here we go. All right, so all of the answers that you seek are in the competition manual. And if they're not there, there's a Q&A forum and other ways that you can get to that. So one question, well, let's look very quickly at the rules and at the thing. So this is this year's game. that we have. If you've seen the kickoff reveal video, if you've seen the reveal video or you went to one of the kickoffs, then you got to see this in more detail. This is the field. There is a blue goal and a red goal, and the main scoring components are the green and purple balls that you see on the field. They are called artifacts. And so one question that we got is how many artifacts can a human player hold at once, and is the human player allowed to grab artifacts out of the tunnel? So the first answer is, according to one of the rules, Eric has mentioned section 11.4.6, each alliance is only allowed to keep 6 artifacts outside of the field. So you can see there are little boxes there on the field, and that has 6 artifacts in them. That is the maximum number of artifacts that a human player is allowed to store or keep outside of the field. When it gets to be more than 6, then the human player is obligated to put more of them in. Or put them back into the field so that robots can get them. The other question is, can the human player take the elements from the secret tunnel? And the answer is no. The human player is only allowed to operate within the loading zones, which if you look, you can see that the squares in the front corners of the field, there's some white tape around the borders of those tiles. That is the extent to which the human player can interact with things on the field. Everything else on the field that is not inside of those white taped areas cannot be manipulated by the human player. So if the artifacts are in the tunnel, they are off limits for humans to work with. And then there's another question, can a human player hold any color combination? There's no rule at the moment about what color the human player is limited to holding. So if they do 6 purple, they can do that. If they want to do 6 green, they can do that. They can do any combination as long as it's not holding more than 6. Okay, I'm going to go through judging real quick. If you have more questions about the game, just save them. I'm glad to answer them after I get through the judging session of this. All right, so let's go through judging. Oops, let me get my screen here. Not that one. That one. All right. So judging. And again, I'll go through this fairly quickly. So in addition to the robot game, which is super exciting, robots playing against each other, scores being posted, robots having difficulties of various sorts and watching the teams overcome those difficulties. There is at a tournament, there's a parallel session, somewhat parallel, called judging, which is how teams can be awarded and be recognized for things that they are doing off of the competition field. So in addition to robot matches, FTC also has awards for achievements and performance off the field. The judged awards that are available, which I'll give a list in a moment, they fall into 3 general categories. So the first category is what are called the Machine Creativity and Innovation Awards. And those awards recognize the technical accomplishments of the team. What did the team do that was noteworthy or was an achievement in terms of the technical design and implementation and execution of the robot they put together? And so those are the Machine Creativity and Innovation Awards. Then there are a category of awards called the Team Attribute Awards. And these awards recognize how the team improved as a team or as themselves. So it recognizes place where the team members set goals for themselves to acquire certain skills, and they managed to do that throughout a season. Or they set goals about how they were going to communicate with others, either within their organizations that they're at, their schools or whatever organization, or with professionals outside of their organization. What were they doing to communicate and to build all those other skills that you need as a STEM professional that are not necessarily the technical math, science, technology, engineering sorts of things that we would need to have. There is the Think Award. One of the components of the judged awards is that teams are encouraged to create what's called a portfolio. And this is a short 15-page document that describes for the judges and documents for the judges the things that the team did throughout the competition season, either in designing and developing their robot or the other activities that they engaged in that are noteworthy or deserving of an award. So that is the Think Award. And then finally, the Inspire Award, which is the top level award for First Tech Challenge, is given to those teams that do well in all of the areas I just mentioned. They have good machine MCI machine creativity. They have good technical design for their robot. They are engaged in their community. They are doing things to improve themselves as a team and improve others around them. There is the Think Award. They have good documentation of their efforts, and so teams that are excelling in all of those areas are candidates for the top awards, which are the Inspire Awards. So those are the main awards that we have in terms of the categories. The specific awards that we have are given. This is straight out of the manual. So you can see there the big box there is the Inspire Award, and the Inspire Award is for the team or teams that did well in all of the different areas. In the Machine Creativity and Innovation Awards, we have the Design Award, which recognizes good functional design and aesthetics, that the robot looks good and is functional for what it's designed to do. We have the Control Award, which recognizes control system design, such as programming aspects or the good use of sensors on the robot in order to improve its performance is what the Control Award typically recognizes. The Innovate Award is for a team that has developed some innovating approach to the game or innovative approach for some component of their robot that they've documented and can describe to the judges that make the judges say, wow, that's really innovative, or something that we didn't expect to see or that we're not seeing other teams or robots do that's very noteworthy. Those are the MCI awards. And then the Team Attribute Awards, we have Connect, Reach, and Sustain. For those of you who have been around First Tech Challenge for a very long time, you'll note that there's new awards here. It used to be the Team Attribute Awards were Connect and Motivate. The Motivate Award has gone away, and it is now replaced by the Reach Award and the Sustain Award. I will give descriptions of these three awards just in narrative text, but you should definitely go look at the competition manual for the full details of what they are. The Connect Award is about a team engaging with STEM professionals outside of their team to improve their knowledge of whatever activities they're doing, or help to improve STEM professionals' knowledge of what they're doing. The Reach Award is about engaging with people to bring them and help them understand FIRST and First Tech Challenge. It is about reaching out to the community and bringing people into the FIRST program. So this can be helping to start and mentor other teams. It can be, doing seminars or outreach activities where you are getting people who may not know anything about FIRST robotics or anything to understand more. It's about reaching out to the community and letting more people know about FIRST. And then the Sustain Award is for recognizing teams' planning and accomplishments for keeping their team going over multiple seasons. Do they have a business plan? Do they have a mechanism by which they mentor new people to be joining their team? How are they sustaining themselves beyond a single season or beyond beyond even their time in FIRST? So that's the Sustain Award. So Reach and Sustain are new awards this year. We're going to be learning a lot more about them. And we will have probably another chat clinic at some point in the future just to review what to look for in terms of judging for this season. Then there's the Think Award, which I already mentioned, describes the portfolio. And judges have the option of awarding what's called the Judges Award, the Choice Award. The Judges Award Choice Award is if the judges believe that a team has done something particularly noteworthy and remarkable that is deserving of an award, but it doesn't fit into any of the other categories. So there doesn't have to be a Judges Choice Award, but it is an option for a panel of judges to make a Judges Choice Award if a team has achieved something that they deem to be worthy of an award, in the same way for teams to get other awards. So those are the big awards. The judging process is that when a team goes to a tournament, there are a number of different ways by which judges collect information about the teams at the event that are participating in the awards process in order to make their deliberations and decide on who gets those awards. The first one is the structured interview. This is a interview that takes place usually at the beginning of the day, where panels of judges are formed and all of the teams are given the opportunity to meet with a panel of judges and give a short 5-minute presentation followed by a short interview section, so the judges can learn about the team and the team can present what they believe their biggest accomplishments to be. As the day gets underway and teams are playing matches, the judges may come by the pit area, which is where teams gather or where they work on their robot when they're not actively on the field. Judges can come by to observe matches on the field, to observe how the robot's performing, and those are called the pit interviews. So that's another way for judges to get information about teams. Of course, judges can look at the portfolio to see what information the team has provided in their portfolio. And the judges will also get feedback from event volunteers. So event volunteers may notice that a team has been especially gracious towards other teams, or especially helpful to other teams, or done things that are noteworthy, or they may even observe things that are noteworthy for the wrong reasons. And they can provide that feedback back into the judges to help the judges decide who the teams are who are most deserving of the awards at the event. So that's the process by which the judges make their decisions. I will highly point to the volunteer process again. If you really want to get so that your team is aware and has a better understanding, and you have a better understanding of how awards get assigned, then please volunteer to be a judge. Obviously, we don't want people volunteering at their own event as a judge, because there's the potential for bias. It's not that it never happens, but we would prefer to not have people judging their own teams or judging in an event where their own teams are competing. But we have plenty of events in all of the regions where we can use judges. So if you are available, please go consider judging at another event. It will help out the event. You'll get to see what the process will look like, and you'll get to see and talk to some really amazing teams that you can bring back in general, not the specifics, to your own team to talk about some of the things that you found to be inspiring, or help them understand what a good judging process would be. The structured interviews, I just pulled this slide, it's straight out of the manual. Usually there's a schedule in the morning and it says this team meets with this panel at such and such a time. This team meets with the same panel 25 minutes later, whatever it may be. But when you have the structured interviews, the team arrives for their interview time slot. They have 5 minutes at most to be able to present a presentation if they wish, a prepared presentation about their robot. Then there is 5 to 10 minutes, maybe more, where the judges can ask questions of the team and interview the team to find out more details about what was presented or about the team, or things that the judges are particularly looking for. The team will then leave the interview. There's about 10 minutes where the judges can write up their notes so that they can keep track of what they heard from the team and use it for later deliberations. And then we go to the next team. So that takes place in the morning for the structured interviews. All right, so that's judging. Any questions on judging? Again, we will probably do a more in-depth thing on judging. And again, please consider volunteering, or just come to the Volunteer Academy to learn more about how judging works. It's really the best way to learn about the awards and what the judges are looking for, and the process that gets done. Can coaches or mentors be present during the interview? I believe the answer is yes now, but you cannot interact with the team in any way. So I think you're allowed to have one coach or mentor present during the interview. They have to be in sight of the judges, and they can't be signaling the team. They have to not be reacting or affecting the interview in any way, shape, or form. There's a section that describes that in the manual. Somebody will probably pop up here with it here in a second. Yeah, so I believe you're allowed to be present, but you're not a participant, is the way to look at it. It's an excellent question. Will there be a limit to the number of parents, mentors from a particular team judging at their events? There may have been in the past, but last year it was difficult to find enough judges. That is a decision that we, I'm not going to speak as a program leader for First in Texas to answer that question at this point.
beyond what I said earlier, which is we try to minimize those kind of conflicts of interest as much as we can. Emily and I are in touch with all of the program development delivery partners in each of the regions to talk about the issues that they're encountering. As mentioned in the question, sometimes you get to an event and for whatever reason, only 4 judges showed up and you need 10 of them. So you start to find who you can, and you can't, you can't always sit there and say, well, you don't want to say we just won't do judging, and it's not possible to do judging with whatever you have on hand. And so at that point, you start to press people into service, even if they might have a conflict of interest. And many of our coaches and mentors and parents and stuff are really good about being able to avoid any biases that they may have. And when that happens, our judge advisors are trained on how to minimize conflicts and make sure that the biases don't creep into the deliberations. So we do that. So there's not a hard number limit that we impose yet for a lot of our tournaments and stuff. But it's something we're constantly aware of, and that will be a regional program delivery partner thing. Let's see here. There's okay, so Erica is giving answers for the items there. Let me go and look them up and share them real quick. So I'm going to share my screen again. This one. Share. So, and this is a good point for those especially who are new. So right now I'm sharing and I'm showing the competition manual that is here. And Erica has given a number in the chat of A204D. And I know that the A section is the awards section. You can see it over here on the left where it says awards. And so I know that if it's A, and then 204D is the name of a rule, it's the identifier for a rule. So I'm going to go into section 2 because that's what the 2 signifies. And then it's the 4th rule in that section and part D. So A204D says that you're allowed to have 1 silent observer in the room for the structured interview. And it references A208, which probably it looks like it expands on it further. 1 adult silent observer is welcome as part of the structured interview. So there you go. That's the answer. There's another question. Somebody asked if they can volunteer part of the event. Yeah, sure. Well, let me back up. Some roles we need to have people there for the full day. Like we can't have people who are judges who only judge in the afternoon and weren't part of the morning interviews. Sometimes we do have the possibility where we'll have some judges who are in the morning, but we're able to dismiss them or have them leave towards the early afternoon as the rest of the judges have the information that needed to be collected. So different roles have different amounts of time that can be at the event. So if you're only able to attend for part of the event, then there are some roles and some ways in which that can be done, but it really depends on the event. And then there's another question. When should we expect the judging manual to be released? I would say sometime in the 2nd week of October. That's going to be my guess. It could be sooner. There are First Headquarters is currently making a lot of changes to many of the manuals, and they are really good changes from what I've seen. I like the changes that are coming, but they take time and they require being reviewed. And I can tell you, as somebody who's on the other side of the manual, it's really easy to write manuals that mislead people, and you don't want to do that. So it takes a lot of time to write manuals that aren't misleading. So they are working on that. So I would not expect the judging manuals to come out in September personally. There may be others who can give better timelines. I'm really thinking it's going to be early October when they come out. And Erica notes FTC game is a quick way to get to the FTC resources. So if you want to go look, then that's a really quick way to do it. Any other questions on judging? All right, awards and advancement. This part is quick. I already did a session on the advancement criteria before, so you can go out to YouTube and the YouTube channel and find the previous one if you want to know the advancement details in more detail. We will undoubtedly talk about it some more. Excuse me. in the upcoming weeks. But just to review awards and advancements. So awards, as playoffs occur, then teams are presented with awards for their achievements. In other words, what happens is we get towards the end of the playoffs, there are time breaks that are put into the schedule to allow the teams that are in the playoffs to have a little bit of time to repair their robots or to recover between matches. And so we fill that time by issuing awards. And so, if you're at an event, and you don't get picked for a playoff alliance, you should definitely stick around through the playoffs because A, they're fun to watch, but B, your team might be receiving an award. And it's worth being there because sometimes you get an award even though you're certain that you would never be a candidate for it. Just a moment. I'm going to get some water to clear my throat. Okay. So teams performing as the best in each judging category that the judges have are recognized as award winners. Larger events will also recognize second and third place finalists for those awards. The Inspire Award, of course, is the overall highest award. So it's the one that gets announced at the end of the competition after playoffs are over to really celebrate that team that has performed the best overall. Throughout the playoffs and the closing ceremonies, there are other awards available in First Tech Challenge that aren't the judged awards that we just talked about. For example, there's a Dean's List Award. We'll have a session on the Dean's List coming up soon, where individuals on a team who have been doing remarkable things in First and in First Tech Challenge, and even if they were parts of First LEGO Leagues or other programs, can be nominated by their teams for special recognition. And that's called the Dean's List. And we will often recognize Dean's List semifinalists and finalists at events and so on. So there are plenty of awards that take place at the end of the day to celebrate the achievements of the teams that competed at the event. And then we have advancements. So advancements are identifying those teams that are moving on to another level of competition from whatever event they may happen to be at. And that is completely changed for this year. So if you have been around in First Tech Challenge before and you're familiar with the old advancement table 4-1 that identified that the Inspire Award winner went first, followed by the winning alliance captain and so on down by the list, that has completely changed. Advancement is now determined by a point system. And at a tournament, a team earns points by these 4 different ways. So you can earn points based upon your qualification match ranking. Where did you rank at the end of qualification matches? You can earn points depending on if you were chosen for a playoff alliance and where you ended up in that draft. You get points for how far did you make it into the playoffs if you are one of those teams that is in the playoffs. And you get points for the judged awards. Each judged award carries a certain number of points that contribute towards advancement. And so the total number of advancement points at the event is computed for each team. And then the teams are sorted by who has the most advancement points. And the teams at the top of that list are the first ones that get to advance to a later event. And you keep working down that list until you have identified the number of teams that are supposed to be advancing from that event. And so advancement has changed quite a bit. I think I skipped over all of my slides. That are there. Just the goals of the new advancement model is that, unlike in previous seasons where teams that were only focusing on awards but maybe didn't do well or didn't focus at all in the robot game, or teams that would focus only on the robot game but kind of ignored the awards, those teams can still advance. There's nothing to block it, but they will generally be overtaken by teams that are doing well in the robot game and have an award, or doing well with the awards and have a robot. It doesn't have to win the competition, but if it's a robot that it makes it into the playoffs or is otherwise earning points towards advancement, then those teams will tend to get advancement spots over and above some of the teams that only worked on one or the other. So it's really nice. I've been able to look at a lot of different events and how the advancement model would have played out at those events. I really like this system, and I'm eager to see how it plays out this year. So then once you've identified for an event how they advance, this is kind of how it looks in North and Central Texas if you're in Texas. So whether you're at a league or at a qualifier, one of the two, the top teams from that league or qualifier will advance directly to the regional championship. In North and Central Texas, we also have these things called super qualifiers. And the next levels of teams from a league tournament or from a qualifier can be advanced to the super qualifier, so that their season's not over. And at the super qualifier, those next tier of teams that were competing, come together and they compete for an additional opportunity to go to the regional championship. So that means that teams that are in leagues, if they're not one of the very top teams, their season's not over, and they still have a path by which they can get to the regional championship. Each region will have its own regional championship this year. So there are 5 regions in 5 FTC regions in Texas, if you include the Houston East partners. And so each region will have its own regional championship, and teams from there will be advancing directly to other events. They can advance to the first championship. The numbers for that will come out sometime in early December, I'm told. So we believe that we'll know how many teams will advance to the first championship. For those of you who went through the drama of this past season, where each of the first in Texas regions only got 2, I can comfortably assure you it will be more than 2 this season. I can't tell you what numbers are likely to be, but it's not going to be just 2 teams. Teams from the regional championship, just like we do for super qualifiers, can also can go to premier events. Premier events are high-level capstone events that are available to teams as an alternative to the first championship. And those events were piloted this last year, and they were apparently very successful. I'm very pleased to say we have a premier event in North Texas. The Cowtown Invitational will be a first premier event this season, being held in North Texas. And so we're looking forward to having a lot of really good teams attend that event from Texas and around the world. In Texas, we are also holding the Texas State Cup. This is a Texas championship or capstone event for teams throughout the state of Texas, including the Houston East partners, where you can come and compete at that event. It does not advance to any other events. The Texas State Cup is not on the path to the first championship or to the premier events. It is simply another event that a team can advance to from the regional championship. And then, of course, we have, and I can see that my video is blocking the bottom corner. We have the UIL State Championship. The UIL State Championship is managed by the University Interscholastic League in Texas. If you're not familiar with UIL, it is the organization that handles public and some private schools, but mostly public school competitions throughout the state. So this includes speech and drama, mathematics, football, track, tennis, all of the places where public schools come together and compete against each other. That's all handled through UIL, and robotics is one of the competitions, or I should say First Tech Challenge and First Robotics Competition are 2 of the robotics competitions that have a UIL state championship or a UIL component. So if you are a UIL school and you have a robotics team and you do well enough within your region, then you can receive an invitation to the UIL state championship, as well as to some of these other events that are post-regional championship. And I think that's it for what I was going to present. So I'm just going to open the floor for any other questions that people might have. And thank you to all of you who have stuck around this long. So any questions, whatever it may happen to be, just let me know. You can either put them in the chat, or you can ask them, or if you're done and you don't have any questions and you don't want to hear what questions other people have, then I appreciate all of you coming and joining us for the chat session, for the chat clinic. It's fun to do these, and I hope that they are helpful. Also, if you get a chance, just put in a chat on a scale of 1 to 10, how useful was this for you? Was this useful to you? Was it not useful? That's a very quick one. How many artifacts can the human player physically hold in their hands at one time? 6. 6 would be the maximum number because that's the number you're allowed to keep. There's no rule that limits the number of artifacts a human player can have other than that overall one.
Hi, my name's Fisher. I have a question
Yes.
about. So at the end of autonomous, does your robot have to be in the corner white square, or can it be anywhere on the field?
So there's the let's see. There's no rule about where the robot has to be. If the robot has moved off of its starting position and is no longer on any of the white lines that are the angled white lines, the ones that are called the launch lines, if your robot is no longer over any of those white lines, then you get a 3-point bonus, or you get a 3-point score for that achievement of having moved off of the white lines. You can be in the white square, but there's no rule that says you must be there. There's no penalty if you are or not.
Okay, so you don't have to return anywhere at the end of autonomous.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. There's a question in the chat. Can I lift another robot off the ground to finish? There's no rule against it that I've seen. We'll have to double check, but I haven't seen one that prevents that. The challenge is, how do you do that? Because, I think another question had shown up earlier. You are not allowed to expand beyond 18 inches horizontally at any point. So if you can come up with a lifting mechanism that keeps your robot inside of its 18-inch square, horizontal square, there's not a rule that I've seen that prevents that from happening. And if you're wondering why would you want to lift another robot off the ground to finish, the end of the match is all about being able to get both robots in the base at the end of the match. And the base is only 18 by 18 inches, and so it's a really small space. And so one way to solve that might be to lift another robot so they're not touching the floor outside of that base. But I'm going to go check something here real quick while we're looking at that. There's a message that you're allowed to expand in the last 20 seconds. And the answer is yes, but you can only expand vertically in the last 20 seconds. You cannot expand horizontally in the last 20 seconds. And I will share that and pull up that rule just to be able to see where it is in the manual. So let's see here. So in the game rules, in match, and they have on the robot section, there is a G414, G414 says robots have horizontal expansion limits. Robots must comply with the horizontal expansion limits outlined in R105A during the match. The only exception is if the overexpansion is due to damage and not used for strategic benefit. So the horizontal expansion limits apply throughout the entire match. The vertical expansion limits are described in G415, the next rule. Robots have vertical expansion limits with exceptions. Robots must comply with the vertical limits outlined in R105. It basically says that you can only be 18 inches vertically. However, this rule gives an exception that you're allowed to go above 18 inches vertically up to 38 inches vertically if it's during the final 20 seconds of the match and if the robot is not in any of the launch zones. So that is the answer for expansion. So you can expand, but only vertically. In this year's game, there is no horizontal expansion beyond the 18 by 18 inch box. There are still some questions about how that gets measured and what happens in special things, but really you're limited to 18 by 18 inches, certainly at any given moment of the game. Another question is how to judge if a bot is holding no more than 3 balls. So very quickly, that is on the scoring element, I think. Let's see here. So G408 is the rule that identifies the control limits. And it says no more than 3 at a time. A robot may not simultaneously control more than 3 artifacts. And that word control is special. You can see it's in all caps. And any rule or any word in the manual that is in all caps means that it's defined in the glossary. And so if we go look at the glossary for control, so let me see if I can pull up the glossary here. That is in section 16. If you go look and see what control is, it's an action by the robot in which the scoring element is fully supported by or stuck on, on, or under the robot, or it intentionally pushes the scoring element to a desired location or in a preferred direction, right? So control requires contact, either directly or transitively. The control requires one of the following to be true: the scoring element's fully supported by the robot, or the robot's moving the scoring element in a preferred direction with a flat or concave face of the robot. So to get to the question of does touching a ball count as control, mere contact is not enough. The robot needs to be doing it in a strategic way or in a way such that the artifact is moving with the robot. So if a robot is just carrying 3 that it has inside the robot and it drives through and it's hitting balls off the side and so forth, and they're just scattering in all directions, most referees are not going to consider that as control. They're going to say that's what we call bulldozing. The robot's just trying to get it to a spot on the field, and it's so therefore, they're trying to get there, and there just happen to be balls in the way, and they're contacting them on the way there. If, however, the robot has a concave surface, something where the balls are rolling with the robot and they can't escape, that is control, right? Because now it's not just touching, it's actually hurting the elements in a specific direction or causing them to move in a specific direction. And so that would be considered control, and that would count towards the 3-element limit. So if you had 3 elements in the robot, and as your robot is driving, there's a ball that's staying in front of it and just moving with it, then a referee might consider that to be control and issue the penalty. A referee will almost certainly consider it control if after you shoot the 3 that you were carrying, you immediately pick that one up next that you dragged with you. Then that makes it look very strategic, and so it would look that way. So that it's important to go look at the definition of control very carefully. And also there's this big orange box that really tries to give examples of when things would be counted as control and towards your limit and when they would not. Then the next question, that the follow-up that's there, if is a ball inside the intake but not taken, is it a control? And again, no referee is going to sit there and say yes or no, because they have to see it. They have to see what's happening to kind of know if that counts as being control or not. There's not a blanket answer. If the intake is touching the ball, even though it's touching the floor, if the intake is touching the ball and when the robot moves, the ball moves with it, that is control, even though it's on the floor. If the ball is completely inside the robot, touching the floor, but no part of the robot is touching it, a referee can argue that either way. It's not control because the robot does not have contact with the element, but they could say that you're shielding it, you're doing a variety of other things, and some other rules might apply. So it's very situational. There's not a black and white answer that can really ever be given for those kind of questions. The answer is try not to live on those edge cases. Try to make it clear when you are or are not controlling them, and don't reply. Don't depend upon, my intake is going to touch it, hold it for a second, and release it. Some referees would say, yeah, you controlled it. Another question: are motifs scored only at the end of auton and the end of teleop? That's correct. The pattern points only occur at the end of auton and the end of teleop. So if you score patterns in the middle of auton or in the middle of teleop, but then you clear them with the gate, then there are no pattern points for that. Patterns only get counted at the end of the match or at the end of the auton. Is the end game parking zone a protected zone? Can opposing alliances interfere with vertical expansion? It is a protected zone. And the rule for that to watch for is There's a whole set of them, but it's G427 base zone protection. So base zone protection during the last 20 seconds of the match, if a robot is in its base zone, or actually if either robot is in a base zone, if you have a red robot and a blue robot, either one is in its base zone, so that picture doesn't apply. Let's see, if either one is in its base zone and contact occurs between the opposing robots, then the opponent robot gets a major foul, and the robot that was touched is treated as though it fully returned to base. So if a robot is in their base and they're working on a vertical expansion and an opponent robot comes and interferes with them and contacts them in some way, then that means that the opponent robot that did the interference gets a major foul, and the robot that was interfered with is counted as though it had fully parked at the end of the match, that it was fully in the base. And then if we clear the ramp before Auton ends, does that mean we lose the potential motif scored? And yeah, I already answered that one. Yeah, if you clear the ramp, then those items are not there. So they at the end of the teleop or at the end of auto, and so they do not count towards the pattern points. So our next clinic will almost certainly be looking at the rules and talking about all of these different things. All right, well, I will just stay on in case there are any more questions from people. But again, thank you all for joining tonight. We did run a little over, but we often do when we have questions, great questions, and so forth. This recording will go out to YouTube, and so you can always go back and look at it there. And please be watching for future chat clinics coming up in the near future. Have a good evening and best of luck to everybody.